Hello viewers, welcome to this special show on Budget 2024 on the Business Standard website. Union Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman presented her 7th consecutive budget and a first for the third term of the Narendra Modi-led NDA government today, which was touted as a milestone budget for the Amrit Kal by the Prime Minister himself. Broadly, the challenges and expectations from this budget can be broken in 4 parts. First is the immediate challenge of navigating the economy in a scenario where global uncertainties have grown multifold, and there are downward risks to both inflation and growth. 2, to continue the past few years' focus on fiscal consolidation and public investment in order to crowd in private investment. Thirdly, whether the finance minister has done enough to address some of the long-running pain points like lack of jobs for India's teeming millions and to spur flagging consumption. And fourth and last, has the government given a roadmap of how it will usher the much-needed next-generation reforms to help build physical and human infrastructure? To discuss how far this budget has done on each of these 4 broad issues, we have with us Mr. A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director of Business Standard. Welcome, AKB, to the show.
Thank you, Sailesh, for having me.
Straight go for the questions. What would you say is the big, broad message of this budget? Is it a roadmap for 5 years? And a supplementary to that, would you say that she has maintained a fine balance between savings and spending?
Well, I think she has tried to present a budget for 5 years, but how far she has succeeded, we will discuss in the coming few minutes. But let me say, as far as the broad message or the big picture of this budget, is that the finance minister has conveyed 3 broad messages. One is the obvious message that she has been and she is today a fiscally prudent finance minister. She has stuck to the path of fiscal consolidation. Not only that, she has talked about that 4.5% is a target that will be more than achieved next year, which means that she is actually planning a goal post that will probably be closer to what the fiscal consolidation and budget management law had mandated of 3% of GDP.
And this is earlier, yeah.
Now, that's number one. Number two, I think she has been a brave finance minister to have taken on the stock market by announcing a new capital taxation regime, by levying a higher securities transaction tax on futures and option trading. Few finance ministers in the past have shown that, I would say, courage to announce a taxation decision that rattles the stock market, and which the stock market did rattle. So I think she's a brave finance minister. And number 3, I think she's also a very politically savvy finance minister, because she recognized the importance of coalition politics. If you do kind of a cloud search of this budget speech, Andhra Pradesh and Bihar will come in the top 5 or top 6 terms that she has used. So coalition partners, both Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, have got a lot of mentions and announcement of schemes for them. So I would say that these are the 3 broad things. And if you want to push me hard, I would say that she's probably trying to change a course that was adopted. It was a shift in the course of policies in 2018 of customs tariff being raised in many items. She is clearly giving signs that the customs duties will be brought down in a calibrated way, just as she's told our meeting in Manthan a couple of months ago that she will go in for a calibrated reduction of custom tariff.
Very well said, AKB. I'll pick up on your last point on the customs duty. Even though she has promised a comprehensive review of the custom policy within 6 months, do you think this changes in custom policy, 50 items where it was reduced, tantamounts to tinkering at this stage?
Well, you are right that she could have as well have waited for 6 months and announced a comprehensive review. But I think she wanted this signal to go out. Also remember that some of the items where custom duties have been brought down, take the mobile phones.
Yes.
Now you have seen a large number of companies, not large actually, the Apple and Samsung, they have increased their base in India, and they're now competing well. They're exporting from here. So this is probably the right time to expose them to
claw
some
back
sort
those
of a competition. So it has been I would say, well-planned strategy, but I don't know whether it actually means a change of heart as far as tariff policies are concerned. But certainly we'll see after 6 months what kind of reviews take place and what do we see in our next budget.
I come back to fiscal consolidation. You mentioned that she has overachieved in terms of doing 4.9% this year and saying that they're going to do less than 4.5% next year. So that's coming back to the FRBM Act. But there's no mention of the 3% deficit target, which is there in the original act. So you think this is deliberate, that she's kept it vague, or how do you read it?
No, I think what it shows is that this may not be called a 5-year budget. It may not be a budget for 5 years. If it was supposed to be a budget for next 5 years, then probably the fiscal consolidation strategy and the goalposts 5 years from now could have been given. And so, which is why I'm saying that whether it is the custom tariff changes or whether it is the fiscal deficit being reduced, or even the income tax laws, which she promised that she will look into, there is no grand idea to present a budget for next 5 years, but an indication that she is on this path and she would like to announce not a direct taxes code, but certainly a review, a host of provisions and measures under the income tax law.
Okay. You mentioned that she's been a very politically astute finance minister by mentioning Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, two of the allies, across her budget speech. But would you also say she's been a clever finance minister, as it seems that the outgo for the centre is not much? According to your own analysis, the revenue expenditure has grown less than the total expenditure, therefore the quality of expenditure has gone up. Does it mean that she hasn't really given much in terms of the outgo from the centre?
I would not say that she has been clever.
Yeah.
I would say that she has been fiscally prudent. Okay. As a prudent finance minister, she has used the RBI dividend this year, which is almost as large as 0.4% of GDP, use that money to distribute almost by half. Half of that extra money has gone for revenue expenditure to address the demands for these states and other schemes, the health scheme, the job scheme, etc., etc. And other half has gone for maintaining the push towards capital expenditure. Remember that she may not enjoy the same benefit next year. Yeah. So she has to bring down the fiscal deficit overcome it.
Yeah, okay. The budget has also looked at jobs and skilling challenge in some detail this time. There are sector-specific incentives for both employees and employers on productive employment. You think this budget is going to spur the animal spirits of the private sector that's been lacking for some time by these measures?
I think these are signals. Yeah. They may not necessarily lead to huge employment revival in the private sector. This shows the government's desire and intent to revive the job market. It also shows that the government recognizes that there is an employment issue in the market, and the government must step in. Even though the government has been saying from various forums that it is not the government's job to create jobs. But in spite of that, I would say that the budget has taken this opportunity to send some signals out to the private sector, giving some financial incentives, benefits. I really do not know how these schemes will pan out. Whether this will mean the government getting into the business or running businesses.
Those
are all untested, uncharted territories. So let us see how they play out.
There have been lots of relief in terms of the personal taxation. The standard deduction has come down. The finance minister mentioned that for a lot of taxpayers, personal income taxpayers, 40 million out of them, there's a benefit of 17,500. Do you think this will play out in the consumption field? That's been another bugbear of the economy, weak consumption.
Yes, it will mean a little bit disposable money in the hands of the taxpayers, the middle class. But remember that the actual benefit has come to that segment of the population, which probably will not be enthused to spend that money, that's the tax that is saved. Rather, they will like to put it in either in the bank deposits or some stock market, and so that's the point I would make in response to this question. But on a larger point, what this budget is actually doing is there is a sense that you get from the various steps on taxation that if you are in the upper end of the economic spectrum, then you may as well afford to pay higher taxes. So you have seen the capital gains tax, and what the government study shows is that almost 66% of the capital gains that are collected taxes come from those who have a taxable income of more than 1 crore, and almost 81 or 88% of people who are giving this capital tax revenue to the government, they account for an income of more than 15 lakh. So, and already 1.25 lakh of capital gains are exempted. So essentially you are trying to tackle that segment of retail investors who are moneyed, who are in that class of income spectrum.
Addressing a bit of the wealth inequality.
Exactly.
Okay. There are lots for the startup sector in this budget. First, the abolition of the angel tax, the abolition of the equalization levy, the Google tax as we normally call it, and then the capital gains tax on unlisted shares has come down from 20% to 12.5%. Do you think this is going to see huge activity in the M&A sector, specifically in the startup world?
I think it will have a positive impact on this entire segment, particularly the private equity sector. A large number of foreign companies, their taxes have come down from 40% to 35%. Now they will wonder whether they would like to open another global capability center and enjoy the lower tax benefits. So of course, angel tax abolition is something that had become controversial, and the government has responded to that.
But the FM at the beginning of her speech said there are 4 big focus areas for this budget, and she listed them as MSMEs, employment, skilling, and middle class. We've spoken about employment, a bit of skilling and middle class because of the tax benefits. There were some measures directed at the MSMEs, whether it was some banking forbearance in terms of not recognizing their SMA NPAs. There was increasing in SIDBI branches, e-commerce export hubs, doubling Mudra loan limit
loan was a big thing,
20 lakh. Now, do you think this is enough to galvanize the MSME sector, which contributes almost 40% of our industrial output, and they've been devastated both by the COVID impact and
GST,
and before that GST and demonetization? Do you think this?
Well, it will go some way in helping and addressing their concerns. Ultimately, there has to be demand in the economy, and this government has consistently believed that demand can be generated through, it's better to go in the investment way, and that can create demand. Now, if you saw the pre-budget economic survey, they did talk about how the private sector investments are picking up. So maybe if not this year, the next year there will be some sort of a virtuous cycle that you will see in terms of high investment creating more demand, and then therefore the MSME sector getting more businesses. There is one area, I don't know whether, I'm sure you must have noticed, but is a new economic policy framework that she has talked about is something that tells me about this government and the finance minister's political economy understanding of the situation. Is very clear that the centre's engagement with the states is going to rise in under these current circumstances, whether it's through the coalition politics, because you are seeing that she announced that there will be a new economic policy framework with regard to land, labor, and in capital,
Yes.
but in consultation,
With
in
the
collaboration with the
states.
states. So, what form it takes, whether it gives rise to the creation of a new institutional mechanism, is something that time will tell, and which is why I come back to my original point that yes, there are signals of a long-term vision in this budget, but it is still not a 5-year vision budget.
Right. Interesting. One of the few criticisms of this budget is that it seems to be underspending on defense in a scenario where the geopolitical atmosphere is anything but benign.
You are absolutely right. I think except a marginal, a token increase in the defense capital of around 20,000 crore or so in a year, and overall defense budget is actually for current year is lower than what was spent last year. It is around 6,21,000 crore or so, which is to my mind, it doesn't recognize the risks in the geopolitical scenario. I hope we all remain in good shape, but defense expenditure is something that is something that has not really gone down. But something similar has happened with the subsidies. The government has relied on its very carefully structured policy on reducing procurement of wheat, and as a result, the food subsidy bill, believe it or not, has come down for this current year. So has fertilizer subsidy, and the petroleum subsidy has remained static. So as a result, your overall major subsidies bill has come down. So, and that is what has given you this, the quality expenditure has increased because revenue expenditure is going up by 6%, but total expenditure is going by 8%. Why? Because capital expenditure has gone up.
Another criticism of India's fiscal management has been that your tax to GDP ratio hasn't risen to the extent that it should. You think this budget has done enough to widen the tax net, the tax base?
Well, widening the tax base is only one step, which is extending securities transaction tax to the FNO segment, not extending it, but increasing it. Similarly, the capital gains tax at a time when the stock market is booming, people are making more money out of stock market, so tap into that. But it is not something that will raise your tax to GDP ratio for the center beyond 11%. Right now is still now the projection is around 11.5% of GDP, which is not something to talk about. There's something else that is the budget, since you are listing out things that the budget should have addressed, is something that there are no clear strategy apart from the tariff reduction on the export sector. Should something be done to kickstart the export sector, whose exports in the merchandise goods category grew by only by 3%. Of course, the first 3 months we were done better with over 5%, but still exports is something that the government has to look at very closely, because without higher exports, I don't think the economy can also keep growing in a sustainable basis.
Apart from the tax mobilization, do you think there's enough been done on measures like divestment and monetization?
The last year the realization was around 30,000 crore. Bulk of it, not bulk, some part of it through monetization of assets. In the current year, the target has been retained as in the interim budget of 50,000 crore. Much of it will come, I believe, from asset monetization, which is not sale of assets, but putting to more remunerative use of existing assets that are now lying unused. Whether the IDBI Bank can suddenly give some more money if they manage to complete the sale. I don't see any grand strategy behind available in the budget numbers that the government is planning to do something. So, for all practical purposes, disinvestment looks to me on the back burner. Privatization is a word that is not being uttered. As a matter of fact, the finance minister's speech did not even mention disinvestment. So clearly there is a shift in strategy. If the government gets more than 50,000 crore, that will be an upside to the budget numbers at the end of the year.
The agriculture focus seems to be shifting to non-cereal crops. How do you see that?
It's a very welcome step. As I said that even on the procurement of wheat has come down, you are allowing more to the open market sales. Similarly, if you look at and scan all the announcements that the finance minister made today on agriculture initiatives, she did not mention even once wheat or paddy. She's talked about various other crops,
Shrimps.
Shrimps. She's talked about dairy products. So I think there's a clear focus away from it. And another sector she's really harped on is the tourism sector. Yes. So that seems to be also giving rise to the services segment of the economy, and is an opportunity to be tapped.
Thank you, AKB, for being with us and giving us your insights. Thank you, viewers. Please stay with Business Standard website as we pass the budget in the days to come. Thank you so much.